This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Picking up hour 2 here, Money Moves, VSiN, the sports betting network, SiriusXM channel 158. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel, holding it down here live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Remember, if you miss any of the first hour of the program, you can always catch up, listen on your own time, download Money Moves wherever you get your podcasts. Had a great conversation a little bit earlier in the show with Hunter Patterson, covers the Detroit Pistons for The Athletic, breaking down tonight's game against the Cavs. Big game 5, series tied at 2. Who will pull away? We'll also have Jensen Lewis on the program a little bit later on this hour, get his plays in Major League Baseball. Best bets at the end of the hour per usual. Gonna sneak in a little NFL with the international slate officially released earlier this morning. But I do want to start in the association, JVT, because we didn't really get a lot of opportunity to dive into what transpired last night. And I get it was a blowout. Maybe there's not a whole lot to talk about, but I think it's worth discussing Victor Wembanyama's performance, who we had all of these questions initially following the last game about whether or not he was going to be available or not. And I'm sure Minnesota was not particularly happy that he was, based on how he came straight out the gates in this game last night. 18 of his 27 points in the first quarter leads the Spurs to a 29-point dub.
In totality, 27 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks on 9 of 16 shooting, goes 2 of 5 from beyond the arc. He was a force. And there's a great sequence where he put Rudy Gobert in the washing machine and absolutely demolished him, to the point where one of the better emotive faces emerging in the NBA is Dylan Harper, who, again, he was in the background enough you saw when Victor Wembanyama decided to elbow Naz Reid in the throat. There was a great shot of him in the background looking really shocked. And when he absolutely demolished Rudy Gobert yesterday, there was another shot of him in the back. So this has been great to watch Wembanyama. And if you're the Timberwolves, look, you feel like you're up against it. Series price minus 1,200. You're going back home. But think about the games in which this Spurs team has lost and has not played particularly well. We're talking about a game in which Victor Wembanyama got injured, knocked himself out of the game, and of course the game in which they got ejected as well, and they ended up losing that. But I think that if you go back to game 1, there was a report that Stephon Castle, I believe it was, and Victor Wembanyama had come out of the locker room and they were laughing after the loss, and they were asked why, and one of them had said, well, we just played one of our worst games and we almost won. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of predictive in a sense, because they have largely dominated this series against Minnesota. I would expect that going back home, you're going to get 2 days off now, if I remember the schedule correctly. So we're not going to see them again until Saturday, I believe. So if you get these days, you get rest. Anthony Edwards is looking a lot better. Maybe you're going to get a spirited, good effort and be able to force a Game 7 back in San Antonio. But at some point, this offense has to show up. You can't make mistakes. And by the way, if we could play this from Anthony Edwards, he talked about this. He praised Victor Wembanyama, but also said, like, look, it's too late in the series to make the mistakes that we've been making throughout these games.
I mean, tonight, some of the stuff that Wemby was doing, you don't really have too much of an answer for it. Just kind of hope he misses. But he came out high. He made a bunch of shots. I feel like we adjusted, fought back in the game. Tried to dig ourselves out of the hole, but I mean, eventually they created another league and running out in transition. We got to get back, get matched up. But just game plan mistakes that we keep making, and it's too late in the series to make these mistakes.
And speaking to that impact for Victor Wembanyama, it's on both ends of the court, as you mentioned, with some of the block numbers, but the dominance in the paint when he's on the floor leads San Antonio to 68 paint points, franchise's second most in a playoff game since 1998. And then on the defensive end, the Timberwolves had just 9 points on 4 of 17 from the floor when Wemby was contesting their shot in Game 5. He now has more blocks with 22 than the Timberwolves have made field goals when he contests their shots.
Yeah, to me, it's the contested ones that are more troubling. If you're going to get your shot blocked at a high volume, it's fine. You're at least getting to the rim. But the fact that even the contested looks are a really big issue for you, that is absolutely something that I don't know if you're going to be able to overcome here. And I think what's really been surprising, too, and you heard Anthony Edwards say it right there, the Spurs have kind of killed them in transition. If you look at this, off-live rebounds so far in this series, their offensive rating in transition is a 122.2. It's a pretty high clip, and it's the third best in this round up to this point. They have not had an answer, and you watch them, too. It's just simple runouts. It's just not getting back, as you mentioned, not matching up with your guy properly, not doing what you're supposed to do in transition. And if you're not going to be able to hold them in the half court, if you're not going to be able to hold them in transition, well, Stormy, there's not that many other facets of the game that are out there for you to get this done. And to give you some context behind this as well, your best offensive team off live rebounds in terms of efficiency in the regular season was Oklahoma City at 123. Again, the Spurs are at 122, just above it. So they are, in terms of efficiency to transition, the second best team that we saw in the regular season against Minnesota right now. You can't win a series. So hopefully that happens. Hopefully Jaden McDaniels also starts to give them a little bit more offensive force. There was a stretch where he had hit a three, had a nice turnaround jumper. I had even texted the Harvard Handicappers group chat. I was like, well, it's nice for McDaniels to show up because he had a really quiet series. Remember, he had demolished Denver and then really didn't do much in the beginning portion of the series. Even that died off. So you got to find out something. You got to do it quick. It can't just be, hey, Anthony Edwards, save our bacon, because I don't know if there's just enough there for them.
And this sets up now a potential elimination game coming up on Thursday, where the Spurs are 4.5-point favorites in the game, total 218.5. San Antonio now for the series out to $12. It's pretty
Friday, by the way.
Expensive. Oh, Friday, excuse me.
Yeah, they get today and tomorrow off. So I think I said Saturday.
Yeah, you did mention that, yeah.
Yeah, but either way, I'm going to do it again.
You're going back.
Yeah, one more time. Now, I'll say this.
Haven't you lost back-to-back games that you've bet Minnesota?
I guarantee that if the Timberwolves lose this game, I will not bet on them again this postseason.
But it's the last two times you've bet them, right, that it hasn't worked out. Yeah. Why are you so adamant about going back to the well?
I feel like there's something better for them offensively. I mean, and on defense, I think they have better performances in them. I think we saw some of that in Game 1 against San Antonio. But again, McDaniels should be better. You should get better offensive support. Now, I will say, one of the things that is really starting to show up, I think, a lot is the loss of Dante DiVincenzo, because as it's been pointed out by many, the spacing has been a really big problem for this group. You know, you look at some of the clogged paint that Anthony Edwards has to work with. That has been a really big issue. And you can't have poor spacing against a team with a freak like Victor Wembanyama. So you do wonder if that means that Rudy Gobert's minutes get sacrificed, or if you see a little bit more of Naz Reid, especially at the 5, because then you can actually open this floor up a little bit more and start to lean into those minutes a bit. So I would hope that maybe that's going to be part of what you see here for Minnesota. But I felt that they're better than what they've shown. Obviously, we talked to the plus 2.5 games of the series. There was a reason from a pricing standpoint why I liked them there, and that was still when we had some questions about whether or not Anthony Edwards was going to play in this series. So I will stick to my guns one last time. And as I mentioned, if they lose this game, then I'll never bet them again this year.
Okay, going to tonight. We do have another pivotal Game 5 with the Cavs and Pistons. Cleveland still searching for their first road win of the postseason. And if they want to advance to the Eastern Conference Final, they have to have one. They are 4.5-point dogs on the road as the series shifts back to Detroit, where the Pistons, since that first game of the playoffs, they've been awesome on home court themselves, total to 11.5. I know you do have a bet on this game, and we'll do best bets at the end of the hour, but whatever you want to share here in terms of what you expect for tonight.
Same stubbornness. Cleveland. Let's see if you can get this done. So there's a couple of things, though. First off, we actually talked about this in the first hour with our guest, Hunter Patterson, who covers the Pistons for The Athletic. Tobias Harris finally stopped scoring at an insane clip. So you do wonder if this is the start of the downturn for Harris. He had been playing incredible basketball. It was an 8-game stretch in which he had scored at least 20 points. So that finally cools off. JB Bickerstaff kind of pushing buttons and pulling levers and trying to figure out something. Maybe discovered that Caris LeVert can be a pretty bad matchup for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Gave him 31 minutes, the most in the series. But maybe that's not going to show up again here. We'll see if that is actually the case. We have yet to see the dominant shooting game in this series for the Cavaliers, as we have discussed, I think on this show, and I know I brought it up with Jensen and Dave, but you look at the tracking data, the Cavaliers were actually generating quite a bit in terms of wide open or uncontested three-point looks. It's the other shots that aren't falling for them. At some point, I would assume that something gives here. Maybe you want to say that they're due, but it seems like they have the bones, if you will, of a successful game plan against Detroit. It's just that it hasn't really come to fruition yet for them. Okay. So I think that they can get that done. At the very least, stay inside of this number. We're starting to see some 4.5s disappear. There's still plenty of them out there. But I would think that they can stay inside of 4.5, potentially push them. And if Cade all of a sudden is not going to have the offensive support from like Caris LeVert or Tobias Harris, then we get this version of the team of the Detroit, the Pistons, that we've been worried about. And the other part, too, is, look, they're starting to kind of figure out here, the Cavaliers, to an extent, that Ausar Thompson isn't exactly the offensive threat that should be out there to help out your spacing. They're playing off of him. He doesn't know what to do when he gets wide open shots, so that's ruining the spacing a little bit here for Detroit over the last 2 games in Cleveland. I think just these little things probably add up to, at the very least, Cleveland staying inside of this number here today.
It's funny, too, like we referenced the Hardwood Handicappers group chat. Host of the Hardwood Handicappers podcast here at VSiN, Zach Cohen, he does daily articles covering all of the NBA action. You two are very like-minded, because one of the plays that he added this week that is in the article is a little tease if you want to go read more and see all of the bets. He has the Cavs alt plus 10.5 paired with the Timberwolves alt plus 10.5 as well in a parlay. So like the thought process, but trying to get a few more extra points in the back pocket and pairing them together.
See if I can pull this up quickly enough, because this was from last night while I was watching the hockey game. But it was something along the lines of, the Timberwolves suck, I'm never betting them again, but I think they're live coming up on Friday. And Zach was like, yup.
That's so good. Reminder, everybody, as well, the sports calendar never stops, and the Sharp Plays is covering it all. They've been winning for 15 straight years, all of it documented, and their logs are posted publicly if you check them out at sharpplays.com. We know that kind of transparency can be rare in this industry, but when the Sharp Plays move, the sports books take notice. Advanced AI, trusted insider intel, they find the value before the numbers shift. Start winning today with sharpplays.com. Check them out when you have a moment. When we come back here on Money Moves, going to shift gears to a little National Football League talk, looking ahead to the schedule release that we'll have coming up later on this week. Some games already trickling out. We have the international slate upon us. We also got some news in college football earlier this morning. I don't even know if you really want to call it news, but we're seeing further support across college football for an expanded 2014 playoff format. So we'll get into all of that. Stick around. More Money Moves coming up after this on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Hey, let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. I've got something for you that feels too good to be true. First, credit where credit is due. If you're listening to this podcast, you're already leveling up your betting game. You're riding along with our best bets and top angles. And when there's a good game on, you're probably getting involved with a few props and alt markets as well. But there's one more layer if you really want to step things up, and that's VSiN Pro. Yeah, I've mentioned it before, but things are only getting better for our pro subscribers. We just rolled out our MLB prop projections, breaking down some of the best edges across strikeouts, hits, home runs, and more. And that's on top of everything else pro subscribers already get, including public betting splits, expert picks, and betting guides across the sports calendar. If you haven't tried it yet, stop sleeping on it. You can get your first month for just $9.99 or save big with promo code POD26 on an annual subscription. Hit the link in the description and start cashing in with VSiN Pro. All right, now back to the show.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Stops 24/7, 365. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. We know the schedule release is going to come out in its entirety Thursday night, but throughout the coming days, we'll see games trickle out. We have the entire international schedule that has been revealed. Some of these games we already knew, of course, like week 1. We knew that the 49ers and Rams were going out there to Australia and Melbourne. And with that, though, as we'll go through some of these games, we already have lines out and available because that's what the world is in 2026. DraftKings, all of these sports books, really quick to get them out there. And the Rams, early favorites against the Niners out there in Australia. Total 48. Rams favored by 2.5.
You sound shocked by that.
So shocked. No, I'm not shocked.
Well, this is, I will say, so if you don't want to bet these numbers right now, whatever it is for somebody who wants to dabble in starting to make some numbers or whatever it is, this is your good sense of at least where early leanings in the market are in terms of power rating for these teams, because these are true neutrals. So you get a sense of what the difference is between these. Now, again, there's not a lot of money here, so it's not like the sharpest of numbers, but you get a sense. So the Rams, for example, if I told you, especially at DraftKings right now for using some of these numbers, it's -2.5, -120. The Rams are about like 2.5, nearly 3 points better than the 49ers on a neutral. That doesn't sound like anything that you would greatly disagree with. Some of these others, though, I think when you go through them, it gives you a sense of seeing where these teams are rated and what we're expecting. What I find the most interesting, though, is this Monday night matchup between Denver and Kansas City, because I don't know if you know this, but Patrick Mahomes is injured.
Correct.
So I do wonder.
Go ahead.
I just wonder what the market thinks.
Yeah, I'm curious too what the availability is going to be, like when he's going to be back for one.
And I should say that's not one of the international games, but that was on my list of things.
And like how quickly you really want to test it. Plus, as we were talking yesterday or this week, breaking down some of the NFL season win totals, just trying to get ahead of the schedule release. The Chiefs weren't a team we discussed, but they are among the top 5 teams with the most difficult strength of schedules coming into this year as well.
Yes. So 2.5. It seems like maybe the thought is that Patrick Mahomes is going to be out there because I think the Broncos are going to come in pretty highly respected.
Sure.
Coming up after last season, the upgrades you've made on offense, the expectation that your defense is going to be as good as advertised. I say that with some pause because one of the things that you and I covered quite a bit when we were doing our Live Bet Sunday shows was the decline of that defense as it went along at the end of the regular season and whether or not that was legitimate or not. So I'll be curious to see if that trend continues, if Denver's defense, and not that they're going to be one of the worst in the National Football League, but much closer to average than elite. And the expectation, the thought, I think if you lick your finger and test the wind, similar to the Steelers last year. You know, a lot of people came into the season just expecting that the Steelers were a good defensive team. And I think generally that happens every year, which is it's the Steelers. Of course they're good defensively. When we really learned last year, like, oh, no, like this is a pretty flawed group.
Speaking of the Steelers, if Aaron Rodgers does ultimately come back to the team, he will be a part of the league's first game in Paris, which is set for Week 7, as the Steelers are 1.5-point favorites against the Saints.
Will Howard versus Tyler Shuck, huh?
It's going to be a banger.
I mean, it is. If you have some information, you can get ahead of some of these. But games like that, Steelers and Saints, how you would look at that and feel confident at this point right now, what you would do, considering you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the guy was just in the city the other day, but didn't go and meet with the team.
Yes. That is one of a handful of games that were... So, for reference, there were 3 games that we already knew were going to be on the international slate. The 49ers and Rams that I already mentioned, Baltimore and Dallas in Rio de Janeiro, Week 3, Ravens -2.5 in that game, and the Bengals and Falcons in Madrid, Week 9, where Cincinnati is a 4.5-point favorite there against Atlanta. So those are the ones we already knew. The other matchups that were announced this week, in addition to that Paris game I mentioned, Week 7 with the Steelers, the Colts and Commanders in London, Week 4, Eagles, Jags, also in London, Week 5. Another one, Houston Texans and Jags in Week 6 out there. And then the Vikings and 49ers in Mexico City, Week 11. We knew that game would be on the schedule, just weren't sure when. So those are the new games. We also have Week 10 in Munich, Germany, the Patriots and Lions. Detroit, a 1.5-point favorite in that game. And that is one that I think is interesting, as we were talking about Detroit this week, taking on a Patriots team that just played for a Super Bowl. You have Detroit as the short favorite in that spot.
Yeah. On the surface, now this is really far down the road, right? This is, I mean, what we
Week
just
10.
said, Week 10. So you don't know injuries, who's not going to be out there, whatever it is. But based on how you evaluate these teams right now and where they're at, and from what we know from last year, I would say that the Lions seem like pretty tempting to personally at 1.5 against New England, given the expected regression for the Patriots that potentially could happen. The other is, and I know I've said this a bunch about my team, but I do think that there is a odd market belief in the Indianapolis Colts this year. That game against Washington, it's pretty much a pick. Money line's -110. It's 1.5, but it's shaded to the dog side at -120. The thought that they could be equals to the Washington Commanders, I think the Colts are going to be pretty poor this year. Okay. And if you get Daniels out there and he is exactly what you expect him to be after his really strong year in the National Football League, and the Colts are as bad defensively as I expect them to be, I just don't think that this team is, only 1.5 points worse than a team, or even equals to a team like the Commanders. And on top of that, still relatively early in the season. That's Week 4. They keep saying Daniel Jones is going to be back at the beginning of the season. I just don't know. But let's say that's his first or even second game back from an Achilles injury.
Yeah.
How does he look? What is that? Can he use his body the way that you expect him to? That is one that also stuck out to me quite a bit. As somebody who is somewhat low on the Indianapolis Colts just to begin with coming into the year, I do think that is I'll be looking for little opportunities here and there to go against them, and I think that might be one of them as well.
Also, real quickly, while we've got football on the brain, a little update in college football. And it's kind of like one of those non-update updates, but the ACC has been having their spring meetings this week, and Commissioner Jim Phillips has said that the conference appears to be another supporter of the expanded 24-team format for the college football playoff. Quote, the desire with coaches and ADs is to go to 24. And on the surface, I at least did find this somewhat interesting, just knowing that last summer the ACC was very opposed to an expanded format, but I think that had to have just been largely due to the Big Ten and the SEC having more guaranteed bids than the ACC and Big 12 would have under that model. The CFP is looking at different ways to present to conferences, whether it be 16 teams or 24 teams coming up at the college football meetings next month. So that's kind of when we'll get our real update on what the future of college football looks like from that standpoint. I like 12 personally, though. I've liked it. I'm not opposed to 24 because it would be more reminiscent of the FCS format, depending on how they ultimately play it out, which has been very successful. But I like 12. I think it's worked.
Well, 24 would be good for you. Personally,
get more games,
yeah,
baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Baby.
Can't wait.
I like, and on-campus playoff games are just awesome too.
Yeah, well, if you get more on campus, it's fine. I mean, look, I'm only a proponent of expand the field if the people that you're including, the teams that you're including, have a realistic chance of winning this thing.
Yeah,
which I don't think is the case.
I don't either. That's why I think 12 is good.
Yeah. So 12 seems fine to me, but we know how this works. That's not going to be the case. In terms of bettors and handle and whatnot, I'm sure if we were asked Derek and Mike and anybody else that operates any of these books, that it's just generally going to be good because you're just going to get volume and you're going to get bets. And that's always going to be attractive to books there. So in our realm, you're going to cover them. And I think people are going to be excited about them. But realistically, I think you're talking about some useless contests. And essentially, I know a lot of people will keep complaining about the bowls, but this would kind of just be different bowl games played on true campus sites and then, go on to get slaughtered by some of these other teams at the top.
I was just going to say that's the other element of this. I don't know how that will work with the bowl system and what that would look like, but I'm sure obviously like all of those higher ups are looking into that and what it would look like and having those discussions. So, I
mean, I would also say too, if you're going to do this, and I know that's part of the coaches, whatever it was, the report that they had initially, you got to speed the season up in terms of when it's going to be played. Moving it up, week 0 being week 1, eliminating conference championship games, things like that. This season ends what? The last week of January?
Yeah. Well, and
your trip to Greece is going to be postponed by quite a bit.
Greece isn't on my radar. Went there when I was 8. Wasn't
impressed. Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
Honestly, this is a good reminder, and it's a tangent.
That Stormy's going to be gone during the most pivotal time of the sports calendar again next year?
Stop. Shut your hole. That I don't think, and maybe this is a hot take, I don't know, maybe this is for Call Me Crazy. I don't think, that you should take children on really cool trips like that.
Okay, what are we doing? We're talking about college football.
I'm just saying, I went like really cool places when I was younger and I did not appreciate it at all. And it makes me really sad now as an adult that I didn't embrace it. And so I hope that you're not it's not wasteful. It's great to give experience and life experience and all of that. And I'm very grateful for it, but I would be more grateful if I remembered it.
We do have a little bit of breaking news in the last 60 seconds here. Let's see. Thanksgiving Eve NFL matchup has been released about 20 minutes ago. Did you name this?
I didn't see that one.
Packers-Rams Wednesday night before Thanksgiving on Netflix. And then the 4 quarterbacks for season 3 of Quarterback have been announced.
Ooh, who are they? Go, go, go.
Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Cam Ward, and Joe Flacco.
I kind of like that blend. And they always do the young school with the old school and Joe Flacco figuring out
Can't get a good quarterback
life
in there?
and that would have been.
I mean, not that Jaden Daniels isn't, but I mean, he had one season and then.
I'm excited to get Jaden Daniels' mom on that thing.
It's very true.
That's going to make for some good TV.
Yes, it will.
Okay, we have to step aside, but very excited for all that is to come every day on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Always a reminder as well.
Lewis.
Unlimited opportunities. Unlimited opportunities when it comes to the website and everything that we have going on up there on a daily basis. Check it out, vsin.com/subscribe.
No idea what's happening now.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Tony and Jonathan Von Tobel holding down the fort here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We're live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Excited to have our good friend Jensen Lewis join us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Host, of course, each and every weekday morning, VSiN by the Book, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Also an ESPN college baseball analyst, former MLB pitcher. And Jensen, real quickly, I want to bring this to light because we were talking about this off air. I just saw some of the rationale behind Nathan McKinnon in the pool, swimming and everything. Eric Johnson, his former teammate, said it actually has to do with like eliminating lactic acid in his legs. But when I was a kid and I would travel for tournaments, they would say, like my mom always, like no swimming allowed because it's going to tire out your legs. And JVT was ridiculing me, but you went through the same thing.
We had travel tournaments, right? You know, you're obviously going to those hotels and places that have those kinds of things. I know for me, a night before start, or at least day before start, for me, I would try not to do that. But, you know, you get peer pressured, right? Your buddies are in and having a good time. So it took some discipline. I will tell you guys, my rookie year with Cleveland, we traded for Kenny Lofton at the trade deadline, and he had Stormy. I'm sure you've seen some of the hockey guys that have those compression, sleeves for your legs, and you can carry them on the plane. Kind of flushes that lactic acid out. Well, Kenny Lofton made the rookies carry his game day pack on and off the flights to make sure that he could put those on during the flights for the road trips. So. Never was, what'd you say, JVT? Never was bougie enough to have one of those contraptions. But hey, when you've been a veteran for 20 years like Kenny was, you made sure that he was all set and ready to go on the bird.
There you go.
All right, let's talk some baseball and some of these contests we're going to get. One of the games that we were talking about earlier, Mets-Tigers, I was approaching it more from a side standpoint. I thought pricing-wise, Mets deserve to be small favorites at home. You're going to play this thing in the total. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, JVT, it's kind of fascinating to look at both starters tonight. Of course, Framber Valdez gets his first outing since the suspension. Anxious to see what he kind of looks like there from a command standpoint. The Tigers, who have actually been awful as far as scoring runs, actually show up really well. They've been averaging over 5 runs of support for Framber Valdez in his starts this year. Same can be said for the Mets, who are starting to break out here a little bit. They average over 5.5 runs of support so far in the 3 starts for Christian Scott. So going to play this a little bit more on what will the emotion look like for Framber out there. And then also the Mets feel like their offense is starting to awaken a little bit. So I played the over 8 at $1.17 on DraftKings, and hopefully the bats are out early and often tonight.
Yeah, this Tigers team certainly seems to be reeling. Also, looking at some of your bets today, we always love when we can get a little plus money on the card. What led you to the Arizona Diamondbacks as a dog today?
Yeah, Stormy, it's 2 pitchers going in 2 different directions. Let's start with the Diamondbacks. Ryan Nelson feels like he's kind of figured it out here a little bit. First couple of starts in May here against the Cubs and the Mets. 12 1/3 innings there, and just 2 solo home runs that he's allowed. So you team him up against a Ranger offense that's been very inconsistent, and they have been downright dreadful when Kumar Rocker takes the mound. They've lost 6 of his 7 starts, including 3 straight, and Rocker has had plenty of issues in the run suppression department. Over a 12 ERA here in, I think, the last 5 2/3 innings, giving up 8 runs there through the month of May. So we're going to take an alternate run line, -1 plus $1.27 there on the Diamondbacks. If you want to get aggressive, I don't mind if people want to lay the run line. Just want to have a little bit more conservative nature because the Diamondback bullpen has been touch and go, but love this price and love the spot there for Arizona on the road.
All right, Shohei Ohtani on the mound again here tonight. $2.30 favorite at Circa. Total is 8. Shaded to the under at -115. Very big price for Ohtani as a starter. What do we make of this matchup, and how are we going to play it?
Yeah, really good pitching matchup, JVT. Ohtani, 0.97 ERA, best in Major League Baseball among 133 pitchers that have at least accumulated 30 or more innings. He's only actually received 3 runs of support in his last 3 starts. So it's not like the Dodger offense has been doing anything. And during this 4-game losing streak, 9 total runs scored. So the offense has gone dormant. Robbie Ray, who gets the ball here for the Giants, 2.76 ERA, guys. That is the best for his career through 8 starts since he had a 216 way back when he was with Arizona in 2015. So let's kind of follow the trend here. Ohtani has been nearly untouchable. Only 1 earned run, guys, in 4 career starts against the Giants. That covers 21 innings. So nothing to dissuade me here from wanting to back the under. We'll play under 8 minus $1.26 and think both these guys continue pitching the ball really, really well.
Can you expand a little bit on Ohtani? Like, what do you think's going on here? I know there's the little slump that he's in, and Roberts pulling him out of the lineup and whatnot. Now he's going back to the two-way duties. And, like, what do you think? All of this, I would assume, ties together in some way. What do you think you've seen from him?
Yeah, JVT, I think it's a kind of two things can be true at the same time. Still dealing with the little nagging injury there, but also you've seen him expand the zone, I think, way more than what we're traditionally used to seeing. He's been very good in his career about just cutting off a part of the plate, using all fields here. And to me, it feels like he's trying to swing his way out of a slump. Always a dangerous thing to try and do here, but I don't think the Giants want to be the guys to wake him up. It just feels like there has been a more concerted effort for him to try and do too much. Easier said than done to kind of be more patient, but that's kind of what I see, a little bit of the injury lingering, and then also just being way too aggressive so far outside the strike zone.
And still minus 290 to be the NL MVP, 7-1 shot, 4th on the board for the National League Cy Young. And his Dodgers favor just about everything to win the World Series, to win the National League. But I know there are some other teams that have caught your attention in the NL that could be worth a futures play. How are you approaching that market right now?
Yeah, Stormy, these are 3 teams, and I fully expect, barring something unforeseen, the Dodgers would still be my selection to win the National League. These are purely numbers plays that if we can get them to, a division series, if not a National League Championship series, be a great opportunity to monetize. So I did take the Cubs this past week at 6-1 to win the National League, the Padres at 20-1, and then I just added the Pirates at 25-1. Reason being, if you look at, and let's take the Pirates, for example, because I think it's an excellent value considering where their offensive wins above replacement as a team are, teamed with where their pitching WAR is too. The Pirates right now are 6th in offensive WAR, and they're 4th in pitching WAR. And can they keep it up for the whole year and into potentially October? That will be the key. I think they have the resources, and I'm absolutely loving the additions of Brandon Lau and Ryan O'Hearn, Marcell Ozuna, getting young Connor Griffin to starting to break out now. And then O'Neal Cruz has been much better in spurts here than what he's been for his career. So I like where the Pirates are. Of course, we see Paul Skeens taking the no-no and the double-digit strikeouts yesterday. Just a phenomenal job. The rotation is deep. The back end of the bullpen is deep. That's how I got to the Padres, too, at 20-1. They'll still have the best bullpen, in my eyes, in all of baseball, and they're still needing a couple of guys to get healthy here. But the duo of Morihone and Mason Miller is just utter filth. I'm wondering if the Cubs can be able to sustain with these pitching injuries now, both in the rotation. They got Danny Palencia back into their bullpen. I think will be okay. I would expect that front office goes to try and make another impact move at the trade deadline. But the offense has been phenomenal top to bottom. Might be one of the deepest lineups outside of Atlanta and LA there in the National League side.
All right, before we get you out of here, you are a Cleveland guy. What do you expect for your Cavaliers tonight?
I laid it with the Pistons, JVT. I mean, until proven wrong here, I'm going to bet with my head. If they win tonight, then, James Harden was behaving himself, staying in the hotel, and Donovan Mitchell continues what he did in the second half of game 4 there. So I just don't have the faith. I laid the 3.5 with the Pistons. If Cleveland wins, I'll be very happy. If the Pistons cover, I'll be very happy monetarily. But you tell me, buddy, I don't know what to buy with them on the road. I don't know where to hang my head or hope to see something different unless Kenny Atkinson's got something different schematically to be able to counteract what Detroit's doing.
I stubbornly took 4.5 here with Cleveland. I think they can stay inside this number. Yeah, I told you guys this morning, we've been waiting for that shooting to correct itself. It hasn't really happened yet at this point right now. You do wonder if Tobias Harris cooling off is a sign of things to come for him, if he's going to revert back to the mean. And if that happens and you don't have another secondary creator, if you're Detroit, all of a sudden they become this one-player team that we all kind of worried about and saw a little bit of in the Orlando series. And I think that opens the door for Cleveland. So I'm stubborn myself, and I went Cleveland tonight.
You and Adam Burke, just Cleveland downers. You're killing me.
Well, hey, listen, we've seen this movie a lot, Stormy. We know better than to get our hopes up. So when we'll believe it when we see it. So I hope JVT's right and they find their way through here in Game 5.
Well, thank you for the time and the breakdown, Jensen. As always, we appreciate it. Don't work too hard, okay?
You either. You enjoy. JVT gave us a little bit of behind the scenes of what he saw from where you were. It was really cool to hear, really cool to see, and good luck the rest of the way on the postseason side, too.
That's probably the first time that you might have ever said something cool or nice on another program about me.
It was off the air.
Kill me. Jensen, thank you. We'll make sure we're checking you out tomorrow morning. Again, everybody, if you haven't checked out VSiN by the Books, every single weekday morning, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern, he and Dave Ross crushing it in the morning, recapping all of the betting action from the day before and looking ahead, of course. I thought it was Believe Land, by the way.
Well, more of the Cleveland dynamic. Guardians get it done. Final 4-2 win over the Angels.
So Cleveland good vibes earlier in the day. Will they come in the nightcap? We got best bets coming up after this on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
20 leagues, one mission. Just Win Bets Baby is your premier source for daily sports betting picks. They're breaking down the data so you can bet with confidence across the entire sports calendar. If you are watching on the VSiN Watch app right now, YouTube TV, any of our video platforms, check out that QR code on your screen. Or if you're listening in your car, hanging out on the radio, justwinbetsbaby.com is where you can check it out today and start betting smarter. The name says it all. Just Win Bets Baby. We got some bets, baby, as well here as we round out this Wednesday edition of Money Moves. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Two big Game 5s coming up, one in the NBA, one in the NHL. We will dole out those plays in a moment. But before we look forward, we got to look back, recap the plays from yesterday. I was held out, didn't have anything on my card, but you did. Let's just get it out of the way.
Oh, Timberwolves plus 10, yeah.
And you want to go back to the well again?
We will eventually. We'll see what the market wants to do here, but Timberwolves plus 10 did not get there yesterday. A loser against the San Antonio Spurs. Gave you a little bit of hope in the third quarter, but ultimately just let go of the rope, and that was all she wrote. So Minnesota back at home coming up on Friday. We'll see if 2 days off helps him out a little bit here, gets Anthony Edwards a little bit even more right, we'll say, because he's actually looked pretty good here so far. So Timberwolves loss.
Okay, as we dive into the bets for today, another team you can't seem to quit, and we just talked about it a little bit ago, the Cleveland Cavaliers going back to the well tonight. You want to give a little of your rationale?
Sure. So we've got 3 bets today, 2 in baseball, 1 in the NBA, but you said it, Cavaliers plus 4.5. As you hit on it multiple points throughout the show here, I do think they got to find some sort of course correction at some point when it comes to this 3-point shooting. The other part about this is, do we finally get the regression to the mean for Tobias Harris? That manifested a little bit in I do think that Cleveland has done a pretty good job. They've generated more wide open attempts than Detroit by a pretty good clip from beyond the arc. Those are uncontested shots, defender 6 feet or farther away. They're shooting relatively well on those. You got to hit some of those other ones. Turnovers have dipped ever so slightly. Maybe Donovan Mitchell's getting a little bit more comfortable. I think that this could work. I think they're also starting to figure out how to defend Detroit a little bit better, playing off guys like Asar Thompson, not worrying about him as a 3-point shooter. Thompson's, not really a good 3-point shooter to begin with, but his confidence has been shaken from that point, just dribbling into traffic, not really knowing what he's doing. I think there's just small signs of hope here for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Don't need you to win. Just need you to stay inside of 4.5. I've taken the crack with them a couple of times here. We'll do this one more time on the road against Detroit. Did it in game 2. Didn't work. We'll go back to game 5.
Before you get into your baseball bets, I did just want to ask, looking ahead in the Eastern Conference with the Knicks kind of waiting in the wings right now after sweeping the 76ers, they had a lot of success. We talked about it already against the Pistons in the regular season.
Vice versa.
Sorry. That's what I meant. Yeah. The Pistons swept them in the regular season. The Knicks went 2-1 against the Cavs in the regular season. Are you secretly hoping that Cleveland can get out of this? Or because we know so much that, the regular season doesn't dictate what you see in the postseason, that...
Does. sometimes.
It does? Okay. Well, I mean, that's why I'm curious if we get a Spurs OKC matchup, like it looks like we're going to see what that's going to look like. But if you are the Knicks, are you hoping for a certain opponent potentially?
I think you're
definitely. You think you want Cleveland?
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, I think you're definitely hoping for the team that you didn't go 0-3 again, that you went 0-3 against to lose. Because I think there were some matchups.
I think it's a different situation now, is all I'm getting
sure
at.
It is. I mean, like we talked about this when it came to the Knights, because there was a media member out there that alleged they had inside info that the Anaheim Ducks were not nervous about the Vegas Golden Knights, and it was like, no bleep, dude. Like they kind of kicked them up and down the ice in the regular season, did they not?
Yeah, I told you, I was like, oh, really? You mean the team that swept Vegas in the regular season has a little bit of confidence coming into this matchup? That checks.
Right. So it's the same thing where I think there would always just be some sort of like, if you gave them truth serum, who'd you rather play? Here's the thing.
But all of that to say, that's a very competitive series, right? Vegas just went up 3-2 in that set.
I was about to give you credit. I was about to go down that path.
Sorry.
But I would also just say in general, the matchup, would you rather face, as a team like the Knicks who have been playing as well as they have been offensively, would you rather play the best defense left in the Eastern Conference field that is turning over the ball at a high clip, is going to play really physical with you, maybe beat you up before, even if you win the series, before you get to the NBA Finals? Or would you rather play the softer defensive team that's going to allow you to play a little bit more of an open game and kind of get up and down the floor, have some high-scoring games in one of those? I think that's what you're really hoping for. So even records aside, I think it just seems that the Cavaliers would be a matchup that you would prefer in general. But we'll see. I mean, like you said, regular season matchups do matter to an extent. But does that mean that the Spurs, should they win this series against Minnesota, are going to go in and beat the Thunder in 5? I don't think so, because one of the things, to your point, that has changed, Jalen Williams has been injured, and thus the emergence of A.J. Mitchell has been absolutely fantastic for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So you're changing things here. Chet Holmgren has been great, shooting over 90% in the restricted area in this series, and I think it should be in the postseason, but he's been great too. So teams get better. You find adjustments. It is not beholden to what the regular season is, but I do think if you're asking the Knicks for sure, what would you rather have? It's the Cavs.
All right. Throw out your baseball plays.
Throw them out. Come on now. It's rude.
Put them in. Put them in. Get excited.
We got to Nationals money line plus 140 today. We've talked about this. This is just a pricing thing against Cincinnati Reds. We'll take our shot here with a big price. Just don't really buy Cincinnati at that price tag, especially when you're getting back over plus 140. There's some plus 143s out there. This game's set to get started in about 3 hours from now. So going against Mr. Lodolo here. Market is pushing back, though. I took this, and Lodolo's up to minus 174 right now at Circa. So there is some support for the Cincinnati Reds. Don't agree. And then we'll go up against Quintana and the Pittsburgh Pirates. First 5 run line minus the half run at minus 130. He opposes Mitch Keller.
Okay. For me tonight, we're going to the ice, and we broke down this Minnesota-Colorado game a little bit earlier. The angle I'm playing at it is I agree with the Minnesota Wild, backs against the wall, conceptually should play a tighter game. We saw even in game 4, it was a very closely contested game. It was tied at 1 going into the third period. Underbettors deserved a whole lot better, although I will take the green check mark in our account, right, that we move forward with the over on that game. But I think that the under is in play in this spot tonight. You know that that Minnesota is going to be trying to play this thing tight and more into their hands. You're getting the full 6.5, slightly juiced on that under at minus 115. Plus, we saw the news in terms of the side. So I said if I were to make a side bet, it would probably be Colorado on the puck line at a plus money price. However, we were talking about Jonathan Davis's article earlier today, and he said empty net goal, which is the whole argument, at least in my brain, about why you would like Colorado puck line is for an opportunity for an empty netter late in this thing. If Minnesota is in a situation down where they're pulling their goalie a little bit early, you have plus 175, for Colorado specifically to have an empty netter. So that might be something I ultimately get down on tonight as well. Did get some injury news that Arturi Lehkonen and Sam Malinsky, according to head coach of the Avs, Jared Bednar, both could potentially play tonight. So if one or both of them gets back into the lineup, I think that's just further support for why you're going to like Colorado in the spot at home to close it out. Minnesota, meanwhile, Jonas Brodin still unavailable. Joel Eriksson Ek still unavailable. So I like Colorado to get it done tonight, close out this series, get set to move on, face the winner of Vegas and Anaheim whenever that may come, and get a little bit of rest like the Carolina Hurricanes have been getting.
Buy it. All right, I'm in. Good luck.
Let's see how it goes. We shall see. Okay, last couple minutes here. What can you tell us about Ronda Rousey this week?
Well, I'm excited for Rob to join us, Rob Moreno, one of our great, wonderful behind-the-scenes crew and host of First Strike. one of our podcasts here at the VSiN Podcast Network, the MVP card that has Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano at the top, a 5-minute round fight that is going to take place this weekend. You were shocked to learn that Gina Carano has not fought since I was a senior in high school, 2009.
Yeah, you asked me earlier, it's like, when do you think the last time that she fought was? I was like, I don't know, like 2 years ago? 2009.
Justin had a better guess. I think Justin, you said like 2013 or something like that, like 2016. Yeah. It's like, nope, 2009. So
shows what I know about MMA.
I thought Carano was going to have some trouble making weight, but picture-wise, it looks like maybe she's going to be fine. So I am really curious to see how Ronda Rousey wants to fight this match. And obviously, I'm curious to see what Rob thinks about it too, because you look at the way that this thing's getting priced. These are courtesy of DraftKings, but this looks like it's going to be a rear end kicking. Rousey's a $5 favorite. You're getting Gina Carano at $4 coming back. The total rounds, 1.5 shaded to the under at -195. Rousey can do that if she wants to, but I just keep going back to the tail end of her career, Stormy. For some reason, it was coaching, it was arrogance. She believed herself to be a striker, and that was her downfall, and she got beat bad by Holly Holm, by Amanda Nunes, and you do wonder if there's some of that there. If they try to extend this out, because I don't know if the Paul brothers want this thing to end quickly with it being their headlining event. There's 11 bouts on the card, so there's more to it than that, but I'm really interested. I think Rousey should be able to absolutely annihilate Carano here and get this done pretty quickly, but we'll see if they want to make this last a little bit more, because some of these cards that have been put on by the Paul brothers, especially from a boxing standpoint, it wafts of, let's extend this out a little bit to entertain the folks, and we'll see if maybe Rousey and Carano buy into that as well.
Isn't this kind of an entertainment thing anyways, like playing on nostalgia of two of like the MMA female pioneers? Like, isn't that what this is?
Yes.
So
also,
of course they're going to want to do that.
Rob's thoughts too. Remember, this is not an octagon. This is a hexagon. So this is seriously. I mean, I wonder if that. I don't know if that. Remember when the Apex, when it was a lot tighter in the octagon, you were getting more knockouts because they were fighting closer. So it's just, I'll be curious. I can't wait to hear what Rob has to say tomorrow.
Yeah, excited to get into that conversation. So much more on tomorrow's edition of Money Moves. But keep it locked right here. Even though we're done, follow the money coming up after this for the next 3 hours.